Hey, I'm Marina.
And I'm Emily.
And I've seen everything in the Sex and the City empire 10,000 times.
And I'm starting fresh.
So I'll be woman-splaining the show.
And I'm along for the ride.
But there's a twist. We are starting with And Just Like That and working our way back to the beginning.
So in other words, we're watching it backwards and in high heels.
This is City and the Sex. Welcome back. We're halfway through, people. We are halfway through. And Just Like That, season 3, episode 6. I have so much to say and nothing to say at all. Let me start by saying fan favorite to the pod, Rachel, who we ensnared into watching this show this season, did text me to say, I think I'm going to have to bail.
Thank you, Rachel. Good for you. Rachel made it out, ladies and gentlemen. She made it out of the sunken place. That's what I want to hear. I am in an active mission. This is an unusual situation as a recap podcast. I'm in an active mission to deprogram as many people as I can from this show with this platform. That's my mission. I'm going to be real with you. If they do get renewed, you and I are going to have to offline about this because I actually genuinely do not know if I can do another season of this.
It is rough seeing the discourse sort of change into people being like, well, the show is never good and now it's boring and I hate it. And it's like, that has got to be really rough for Michael Patrick King, who is always like, how do we get people talking about the show? I feel like season 1, season 2 were so in service of like, how do we get people talking about the show? And then, this season is just like, at the top, I'm just going to say 2 notes about this whole thing so far. Yes. Note 1 is like, we have spent too much time explaining and unpacking things that were casually said in season 2. Like, we needed to just move on. That's like my one big note here is like the Carrie Aidan thing, which we'll get into. It's just like, kill it with fire. I don't know why we're still like unpacking it 6 episodes later and not in a like cool or nuanced way. And then 2, I think every scene in this episode ended awkwardly, like in an awkward edit, either too fast, too slow, too much breath. Like, it was kind of crazy. That's my one word for this episode, which is awkward turtle. Every scene ended in an awkward cut, and like, it's just lazy.
Yeah, I very much agree. Completely in agreement about the cuts. I think it's a really good note. There was a couple that I did notice and make a note of, but I think you're right. I think this was an episode-wide problem, and lazy is the only word we can use here. We said it a couple episodes ago, or maybe it's the last episode. Time is a flat circle, but we talked about like the cinematography is like not it anymore. You know, there's just like we're kind of all checking out, and it's really hard to like get buy-in from us if we're watching something that clearly people are like kind of checked out of.
Not to sound bitchy, but to be bitchy for 2 seconds, they've flagged this whole season as being like, and just like that, summer in New York City, you know, like summer in NYC. Like, that's been their whole like branding push, which is so crazy to me because like, when has a show ever been branded by its season? I don't know, but whatever. And we are a part of that drag out part of the summer where you don't want to go outside. You don't want to be awake. You're just like putting ice cubes on your forehead and hoping for the best. And that's how I feel halfway through this season.
Yep. I think like it's, we're going to get into it, but it is very interesting to hear all of that and your background to it as well, because like this was definitely the season, aside from the first, I guess, but that was mostly because it was like, the girls are back at Sex and the City. But I felt like season 2 was sort of ignored. And then season 3, there was kind of a marketing push with like all of them. You know, it wasn't like we're just going to trot out Sarah Jessica Parker. I felt like they brought the whole gang. They did like all 7 of them doing, you know, Vogue interviews and the sort of like most Googled questions or whatever. I felt like they were really trying to like turn a new leaf and set up the, like, this is the new era of, and just like, and really pushing it. They had Sarah Jessica Parker doing like pop-up activations. Like, she was giving out ice cream out of like a Mr. Softy the other day that was like styled to and just like that. You know, they have like all these sort of crazy things happening. to try and push this season. And it's, I gotta say, sweetly a little bit satisfying that it did not work. And we're still where we started.
Okay, well, that was very talonful, and by that I mean talon straight to the back.
Look, when I've decided to be cunty, I do go all in. You know this about me.
Wait, so what is your one word for this episode?
My word for the episode is going to be Michael Kors.
Hey, we'll get into it, but maybe the one good joke all season? ? Okay. I say let's just bite the bullet and start with Carrie and get this god-awful plot over with. We also forgot to mention before we really dive into it that the episode title is Silent Mode, which hate. Okay. Should have been Awkward Turtle. Okay, I'm done.
Can you imagine?
I would live for that. Unfortunately, they're not that fun. Okay, so Carrie is eating stew with Duncan in his basement apartment. Man, they really want us to think that there's chemistry here. Unfortunately, there is more chemistry in the way that their spoon collects the mutton into their mouth. We open with the dumb voiceover that I'm already upset. And also what made me mad about this voiceover is she says something like, the woman was braving the unknown. I'm like, this woman has braved the unknown 3 times already.
I have braved the unknown, trying mutton, ? Going on a date, ? Going downstairs, ? What's the unknown here that is supposed to be so exciting to start the episode with?
Yeah, I'm like, for a woman who's always nervous about the unknown, she sure loves braving it. Also, what had me confused is he's like, sorry that we have to eat this like terrible stew that's just for me because it's raining, so we can't go eat out. And I'm like, y'all couldn't catch an Uber to a restaurant?
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that we're making weird excuses again for how we end up in situations. It's like on some level, they know that the situations that they end up in are crazy and nonsensical, but then further that, rather than just ignoring it, they add an explanation that further doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm sorry, Miranda, that I haven't asked you to move in all season. I just forgot I had extra rooms. You know, they like add extra things that then make it crazy. And that's the special spice and sauce of the show.
That's the secret to the gem of this show. But they agree at this dinner that they're going to exchange chapters because Duncan apparently just like can't write a Margaret Thatcher biography without a female perspective. Whatever. I don't know why he's turning to Carrie for that, but that's fine. Yeah. Then Carrie calls Aidan. And she's like, oh, Duncan or whatever. And he's like, Duncan like donuts? And again, I mean, 2 episodes ago, we saw that he was maybe one of the worst fathers ever. And then I thought we were never going to see him again. Now he's back and dumber than ever.
I was very excited because this was the second time that I felt like your heart was going to be shattered into pieces by expectations of the show. First, the voiceover came back and it was not what you wanted. And then secondly, after, no, I think we're done. I think we're done with Aidan. I think this is done, Emily. I think we're done with him. And boom, he's calling again. I was like, here he goes.
Like the worst way possible. It's just like dumb after dumb after dumb this episode. And then we find out Carrie has a Tums addiction. Whatever.
Weird.
And we learn that Aidan's going to spend a week with her because Wyatt is going to a wilderness camp in Wyoming that he found online and they vetted it and it's cool. There was something about that delivery where I was like, why do I feel like it's not cool?
Yeah, it's going to be something weird. It's going to be something unhinged. I also, during this conversation, she says something like, now I have acid reflux of the lambs or something in reference to like the mutton. And then she does this little like annoying head bob thing because she like is so impressed by how clever her joke is. Yes. And it makes me so mad because I'm like, you can't just like reference another. I don't know. There's something about this that is pissing me off.
It made me really pissed off. And then in my second viewing, I just blacked out and pretended it didn't happen. I think what made me pissed off about it is like, at the brunch when the 4 girls go around and Carrie does do her like little witticisms, she never like so obnoxiously addressed that they were funny.
Yes.
Like she would do what a normal person would do, which is being like,
jokes.
She would like sort of maybe like, do a little smirk to her own joke. You know what I mean? She'd be like, haha, and that one's just for you. You know what I mean? Like that kind of energy. Whereas here being like, yes, killer zing. I'm like, it wasn't even that good.
Yeah. It's exactly what it is. Thank you for nailing it. It's like, you didn't earn what? Yeah. Yeah. Don't do that.
You didn't earn a single bit of this.
Just eat your Tums in peace.
This episode is going to be a bit of a skip around because like there's the funeral at the end, in which many things happen, but
yeah,
just to address the sort of Carrie and Aidan of it all.
Also, did you catch Aidan drying his toothbrush with the towel?
Is that not okay?
He dries it and then like blows on it to get the like fuzz off of it. You don't have to dry your toothbrush.
Okay, but what about those of us who wipe our toothbrush on a towel? On
the towel you shower with? No, that's gonna
not
get
the towel I shower with. I have a toothbrush towel and I dry it in my toothbrush towel.
Okay, so first of all, that's adorable. But second of all, that's not what he's doing. He just came out of the shower and he's doing it on the thing on the shower that he just cleaned himself with. So that's just bacteria. I don't think.
Okay, well, some of us do that out of desperation.
This is adorable. I'm learning something about you. I love this. I love when this podcast we learn like a really weird specific trait about each other because someone does it in the show.
Listen, my parents would refuse to even teach me how to tie my shoe. Okay, so I had to learn everything like an animal. Like I didn't. No, my mom never told me not to sleep in a bra. So I slept in a bra until like college. Actually, I think well past college. And then I finally went on a beach trip with my sister and my mom, and they got in bed and my sister was like, what are you, a freak? Why are you still wearing your bra? And I was like, I thought we were also supposed to wear a bra. And my mom's like, no, you don't wear a bra or underwear. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And so how I learned to brush my teeth is after I'm done, I wipe it in my hand. I wipe the toothbrush in my hand towel, and I also wipe my teeth on the hand towel.
You wipe your teeth?
Yeah.
Wow.
I like spit out the toothpaste and then I wipe my teeth. This is more riveting than the whole episode.
Yeah, I genuinely am like more excited to hear about your toothbrushing regimen. This is more thrilling than anything Carrie and Aidan are going to get up to this episode about the window.
Good, I'm glad. I'm glad my ragamuffin style is
paying off. Okay, fantastic. This is all I'm going to be thinking about, by the way, for the rest of the episode. Continue.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I'm
okay,
delighted.
Well, so then Aidan pulls up to Carrie's house, and Emily, you won't get this, but this is sort of a callback to the original show where he's throwing pebbles at her window. She has a scene where she throws pebbles at his window. I forget if she breaks the window or not, but whatever, it doesn't matter because he breaks the window and then lets out the most high-pitched fuck I've ever heard. I was really disturbed by that.
I didn't like that.
And then he's like cleaning the glass with his raw hands, no gloves or anything.
Nope.
And then Carrie's just like waxing poetically about how much the window means to her because it survived the Civil War and the riots and Hurricane Sandy. I think that is meant to be funny, but I can't tell.
I also don't, again, feel like we're listening to Carrie Bradshaw. We're listening to Sarah Jessica Parker.
Clarissa. Yes.
Clarissa. We're listening to Clarissa Bradshaw tell us about this historic window she's interested in.
And then she goes on this whole thing about like when the light hits the window in a certain way, like rainbows are formed. And I am going to be that nitpicky person who says, I get if one pane is disturbed, that might disturb that, but he didn't break the whole door. You could still get a rainbow through the rest of the window panes. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Like if they replace the pane as close as they can and it's not perfect, you still have all the other panes of the 2 other huge windows that would make a rainbow. So it's like, it cannot be this tiny little piece is what's the rainbow.
It can't be just the one, he broke the one pane with the rainbow. And like, this is where I needed to bring in a guest who was a scientist to explain like how these things work. Yeah, because I'm like, is it that you only get a rainbow with certain glass, or is it the angle? I think it's the angle, probably.
I'll ask my construction boyfriend if he knows what the deal is.
Yeah, if he could next episode give us a voice memo and explain the feasibility of the rainbow through the glass plane, I would really appreciate that, because it really bothered me, especially when Aidan goes out to like buy all the doors from Pennsylvania and he's like, none of them create the rainbow. And I'm like, what if it, like, did you even ask what time? Because it probably has to do with the angle of the sun.
Yeah, and like that's a good point, because it's like, it's the angle of the sun and the angle that the window is facing and where it is, and he doesn't know that. He just went off to Pennsylvania and then held up the glass and was like, they're not making rainbows.
I'm just telling you, like, this is why kids gotta go to school. Like, I don't have the answers, but what I'm telling you is I have a modicum of critical thinking, and the whole episode I just kept going back and forth being like, I get they have a beautiful shot where they show the window with the old glass and then the new glass. You can tell it's like a little different. It's like more clear. That was great. I understand that more than I understand this like random rainbow problem that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. It doesn't. Look, Aidan doesn't understand, because as we've learned from this last instance, he's anti-medicine, and now we're learning he's anti-science in general. So, like, I think this is just a difficult experience for him, in general.
Yes, exactly.
So we're gonna get to the Pennsylvania, but yes, he's distraught over the rainbow windows. She's distraught over the rainbow windows. A tiny panel has been lost, and I refuse to believe that this means no rainbows.
Yeah, this is insane. He also loses his mind over her not wearing shoes. He's like, put some shoes on. I'm like, let's calm down. I mean, she should be wearing slippers probably, but whatever.
She is waltzing in bare feet, and it is dangerous, but he's also like on his hands and knees, so I don't,
picking it up with his raw hands, but whatever. Then he goes on a whole fit being like, nothing is going my way, and then he's like, Wyatt wouldn't get on the plane. He got real southern here, I don't know why. Yeah. And then
it just comes out sometimes.
He's like, Kathy looked me in my eyes and said, what did we do to raise these children to be so bad? And I'm like, hate to tell you, but you married the wrong guy.
Yeah.
Justice for Kathy. She did nothing wrong. No, I stand
Justice
Kathy.
For Bob, the weird boyfriend who she cheated on.
She's been with for 5 years or whatever.
Just a real victim Bob. Of this family.
100%. 100%. God. She probably didn't even tell him, which is the sick part.
Oh, God.
Anyway.
Someone tell him.
Then he's like, don't feel bad for me, though. Which I'm like, telltale sign that, like, something is up.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm like, 911, beep, bop, boop. Something is up.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then I realized they did something here. They did an intentional symbolism where, because he's like, don't feel bad for me. You just go. You just walk away. She, like, tiptoes on the literal glass, because she's also walking on the glass that is their relationship. Do you get it? Do you see it? Do you get it? Do you see it? No, you actually didn't get it, and you didn't see it because there wasn't some man off screen going, oh, she's walking on the glass of that relationship.
It's the delivery man back from like First Dibs, and he's like looking in through the broken window now, and he's like, oh, is she tiptoeing around this relationship? That's so romantic.
Literally. There's another one of those this episode. It is my favorite. When we get there, I will talk about it for 20 minutes.
Good.
But anyway, so then Aidan is looking at the doors online, and he's like, there's this place in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Let's go and like get these doors. And then she's like, no, I don't care. We'll just replace it. Come to bed. And he's like, no, I got to do my thing. And then the next morning she wakes up and gets a burger style Post-it that's like, gone to Scranton, we'll be back or whatever.
Yeah,
and then
like
she's yeah, I know. And then she's popping them Tums. And that's our sign that things are bad.
You know what I actually really enjoy is that we're we take a stance on this show or we just completely mismatch Mad Libs the medicine. So it's like this man, like Wyatt, who clearly has serious issues, behavioral issues, we're like, it's clearly ADHD and he needs his Adderall. Meanwhile, Carrie is like depressed and anxious, and so she's like popping Tums like it's a Xanax. You know what I mean? Like we just keep picking the wrong medication to prescribe to issues. I think that would be a fantastic bit.
Again, keep the kids in school.
Like,
I don't even know what meds to reference.
Let me get some calcium in me. God.
So then Carrie and Charlotte go on a walk and talk. And we'll revisit this later. But for Carrie's part in this, they're like going to Tiffany's for this event. And she's like half bragging. It's like a very weird tone she takes here where she's like, Aidan smashed my window. It's glass you can't replace. But he woke up before me to go to Scranton to look for a replacement glass. I'm like, are you upset? Are you happy? Are you bragging to Charlotte, a fully married woman? Like, I don't know. There was something about the acting choice here that was like a little confusing for me. And also the hat. Let's be real. Hat watch. All of it was off.
And also we're distracted once again by the hat in Tiffany's.
But anyway, so we'll revisit this scene, but basically she half brags about Aidan helping the problem. Then we get home and Aidan is trapped in his 18 doors showing Carrie being like, there are no rainbows.
He's like scribbling across the walls like equations, you know, and he's like slowly unraveling, surrounded by increasing numbers of doors. I came back from Pennsylvania with so many doors, Carrie.
And then Carrie finally is like, stop acting weird. Give me a kiss. And he gives a kiss and it's weird. And then he's just like, I slept with Kathy. Which, okay, fine. And then Carrie's like, it's odd, but I understand.
God.
And I'm like willing to accept that. I know people, I feel like I read online people being like, what? How could she understand? I'm like, well, especially after last episode where basically she threw a grenade and closed the door on the whole family, I would imagine her just being like, I'm going to pretend like this never happened. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, because she seems very not interested. You know, unlike Bob, who is committed to assimilating into this family, she has no interest. So when she was like, it's odd, I understand. I'm like, it's actually not odd at all because you're going to pretend that this never happened because you don't know Kathy anymore because you don't associate with anybody in this family.
Is it? Because your family dies. So it's like Schrodinger's affair. It like does not actually exist to you. I think I'm sort of two minds where I get where people I'm with you. I get where people were coming from with the like, this doesn't make sense. Carrie, stand up, whatever. But I was like, it's actually kind of tracks. I think what's weird about it isn't actually the decision she comes to. I think it's how fast it happens. Like,
yeah,
within a span of about 30 seconds, she goes through the pain of it and then is like, well, it's fine. I don't care. And then we kind of go forward and we'll talk about it, versus like I felt like this should have been maybe the beginning of the episode and then the like end of the episode is her coming to this conclusion that feels a little bit more in line with what I know about how scripted television works. But instead this whole transformation happens in about 10 seconds. You know what I mean? Of her realizing, yeah, this is fine. I don't care. Or alternatively, she's immediately fine with it. And then the whole episode, Aidan is getting weird because he's like, I thought you'd be jealous. What do you mean the rules were different? You know what I mean? Like, I felt like this should have been the thing, but it kind of gets resolved immediately and we're about to cut to them in bed together.
Yeah, again, it's like, to my earlier point, like they're just dragging stuff out and then they cut when we should hear it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like they drag, like he should have just come out with this in the first scene. And then he still could have gone to Pennsylvania to fix the door because she's like all twisted because of Kathy. And then he comes back and she's like, it's fine. And then they have this, what are we discussion? You know what I mean? Like, instead, like that's cut. And then we cut to them having sex. We'll get to it in a minute. But like, again, it's just the constant problem of like they accelerate when they should brake and they brake when they accelerate.
Yeah, I agree. Exactly.
And in that way, this show is revolutionary. Okay. And so he's like, I betrayed you. And then she's like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, I stepped out on you and like, whatever, we're not supposed to have sex with other people. And then we find out that he thought that they would never have sex. I do love Carrie's one line here where she's like, well, you clearly couldn't stick to it. So why are we trying to stick to this?
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
His ass. But then she turned around and was like, this is so male. And I was like, oh my God.
Medieval, she calls it.
I know. And then she's like, I don't know why we haven't had this discussion until now. And then I'm like on the train somewhat. I mean, I'm bored out of my mind, but I'm like on the train somewhat. And then she's like, well, you don't want to sleep with me? She's like, no, I want to sleep with you. And then they just have sex. And I'm like, okay, the dialogue and the editing, therefore the show has communicated to me, I feel, that now she won't sleep with other people.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for saying that, because I completely agree. I felt like that is the message we were supposed to land on, and I'm like not convinced that that's where the writers...
I don't know how we got there.
Yeah, yes, I was like,
she's right. She should be able to sleep with other people.
And then, but suddenly we didn't resolve that, because he's like, exactly. He says like, do you want to sleep with other people? And she says, no, I want to sleep with you. And then the editing sort of goes exactly from that moment, maybe not that line specifically, but this like emotional place we've landed on, to them sleeping together. So I can only conclude from the thing you are showing in front of my big dumb face that you're telling me they can't sleep with other people now, which I know is not going to be the case. I know we're going to have
first of all, and I don't want, okay, it's like, I don't want it as a viewer.
Yeah.
I know it's not the case. It introduces this weird tension with Duncan now, who I don't care about. So in fact, like, I don't know if you watched the preview for next episode, but she like throws a party for Charlotte, and then like everyone's implying that she should fuck Duncan. And then she sort of gives a look like, oh no, I'm not trying to fuck Duncan. And I'm like, fuck Duncan, who cares?
Yeah.
I'm like, even at the end of this episode, which, you know, we'll get into a bit more, like Aidan gives a fucking cuck face performance being like, well, I guess this man's going to fuck Carrie while I'm gone. So like, I just I feel like, again, to your point, I think this scene was supposed to land on, I guess we won't have sex with people, but they didn't talk about it at all. Didn't quite make sense. It's like the editing is telling me that's what's happening. And I hate it. Burn in hell.
I hate it. I mean, this is a conversation that, yeah, it's pretty crazy that you guys did not have it, which makes this whole arrangement increasingly insane that we don't have any of these things talked about. But like, we still don't have them talked about, at least not on screen. You still didn't land anywhere. So I'm kind of, you know, explicitly, I mean. We got the implication from the editing, from the lines, whatever. But I need to explicitly hear what the rule is now, because I don't know where we're going. We'll see what happens with Duncan. But let's keep going so we can get to the cuckoldry of the...
the cuckoldry of the whole thing. Again, it's like, why is this being dragged out over 6 episodes? I hate it. Okay, so then, first of all, I do have to point out here, we get probably the funniest editing cut, unironically, in the entire series, which is them rolling around in bed having sex while Amazing Grace slowly pipes in, and then we cut to LTW getting in the funerary car with her family, and they're all dressed in black, and I'm like, y'all did not realize this was the only funny edit you've had all season. To play Amazing Grace under Carrie and Aidan having sex, which is what I want to happen to this relationship. I wanted to die. And then cutting to an actual woman's funeral for her father is got to be... If you've never seen this show, Rachel, if you skip this episode, no, I know you watch this episode actually because of the torture and the pain. Just go find the time code for this one edit and watch it. It is worth it. Amazing. Then we have this whole bit at the funeral, which I don't understand why it's put in here. Why? I don't understand why we need to make the funeral more funny than it already is.
Leave
by
it
having
on the cutting room floor.
Aidan come into the wedding with shorts and shirt that is too tight. And I think it's all in service of the pun of a big tall, you know, because his big tall is showing because his penis is out because he splits his pants at this fucking funeral. I was like, cut it. I blacked out all the times. And then they have to like stay behind and wait for everybody to leave so you can get up and they like do this. And I think they're trying to show us like, oh, they're okay. Their relationship is still fun and light. And I'm like, but what you don't know is I don't want to watch it anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I don't find it funny. We're at a woman's funeral.
Yeah.
God.
And it's like a woman who you like kind of know. It's not, you know, not that their behavior was excusable after the splat funeral that they went to for some reason where they like made fun of her coke addiction or whatever at Sex and the City. You know what I mean? It's like And that was like really mean, but it was like, you can do a funeral and make it funny and goofy and whatever. This is not it. This has nothing to do. It was just like, I think you're right. They just threw it in because they're like, it'll make people laugh. It'll lighten it up. It's kind of silly. We love dick jokes, I guess. So.
Yeah, but you already had Jennifer Lewis. So that's what's confusing to me is like, that is already the funny part, which I think, we'll get into it, works, but like Aidan in his short pants, burn it to the ground. So then Aidan and Carrie are at home. We get another dumb voiceover. And then there's this whole weird interaction where he's like, I'm going home. And she's like, you are home. And I'm like, girl, you need to I thought we were over the denial that this is not his house anymore. That's what you said at the end of the last episode. I don't know why we're fucking back here. I fucking hate all of this. And then he goes downstairs and Duncan comes in and he's like, sorry to bother you, but like I have the chapter to exchange for Carrie or whatever. And as I said, I mean, Aidan is giving straight fucking cuck face, being like, this man is gonna fuck Carrie. And honestly, I'm cool with it. He like gives a resignation. There's something in his face that says, I'm resigned to it and it's okay.
Yeah.
And then he leaves the chapter on their table. And then Carrie comes down and looks at the chapter like guiltily as if she's already fucked Duncan, which is like very confusing to me. And basically ends there.
The leaving on the table, I'm going to choose to interpret as like passive aggression because like on the one hand, there are no surfaces in the house as we've learned. On the other hand though, like you can still like say bye to her and be like, the neighbor dropped this off for you, whatever. Leave one of your stupid post-it notes. I don't know. There's something passive aggressive to me about leaving that on their table and not saying anything and leaving and her finding it there. So, like, maybe he's not cool with it, but at this point, I'm really reaching for some sort of semblance of meaning in anything that's happening that we're seeing. Because, like, you're right, there's not really a... Hang on, I gotta wait for another siren. Okay. Because you're right, there's, like, not really a confrontation here. I kind of still don't know what Aidan feels exactly. He does look pained but resigned. I don't really know what Carrie feels about Duncan, but she does look uncomfortable when she finds the script and a little guilty. So there's like some kind of acknowledgement maybe of attraction to Duncan or something. Like, I'm not really sure. And once upon a time, we'd be innocent enough to be like, maybe they'll explain more in the next episode, but we know that's not going to happen. So I think what I'm choosing to interpret is like Aidan saw the hot guy and is like, okay, I guess this is just a thing I have to be cool with, but is kind of not actually gonna talk about it or acknowledge it, so he's a little annoyed. I don't really know, but that's my best guess.
First of all, I 100% agree with you. Overall, media literacy 101, I don't know what I'm supposed to pull from this ending other than I agree with you. I think there is some sort of clear, like, passive-aggressive whatever. It's rare that I do this where I hijack the podcast to talk about another project out of my own desire and agenda. But I just came back from a trip, and on said trip, I was on the airline, and the airline had maybe the worst selection of movies. But among the selection of movies, there was Catwoman from 2004 starring Halle Berry, which I've only seen clips of, and I've not seen the whole thing all the way through. So I'm watching this movie on the plane, and it is dumb. It is dumb in 10 million different ways. I could literally go into all of them right now, but I don't want it to take too much time. But I was riveted, okay? I was invested. I knew what every character wanted and was doing from the beginning to the end, okay? And at the end of it, I turned to myself and I said, I honestly think this movie was taken down because of sexism, because I actually think this movie is better than what we give it credit for, because at the very least, it is visually engaging and it is interesting. To then come home off the plane, get on the subway, the long subway ride back to my house and start watching it just like that, I was like, wow, the way I would rather watch Catwoman 2004 all over again. And Halle Berry was mercilessly crucified, and undeservingly so. And that is going to be my one plea for this episode. That is a random tangent, which is everybody should go see Catwoman 2004. I am happy to discuss. And I kept thinking to myself, I would rather come on here and talk about 10 million things from that movie than sit here and talk about this episode because of shit like this, where it's like, at least at the end of the day, I know what Halle Berry's motivation is in that movie. I know what Sharon Stone's motivation is. I don't know what anybody's motivation is here. I don't know scene to scene what is happening, what I'm supposed to read between the lines, if it'll pay off or not. And I need this Aidan plot to end. I am so sorry.
Thank you. I think I couldn't have said it better. Everyone should go watch Catwoman instead of this. And I'm glad. It's like, anytime I see on Reddit or something, someone's like defending this show or whatever, my honest response to them isn't like hostility. My feeling is like, I think you should watch other things right now. And then come back to this. Like, you really cannot even appreciate, and if you get sucked into this, you cannot appreciate how like much garbage is being served to you. And you're expected to just take it. And you know that, like, things like this are being written off as, like, we're starting a conversation. It's really interesting. And it's, like, it's actually not interesting to be like, so what did we just watch? What does anybody feel? Right. What does people think? Like, that's actually not that interesting. You know what I mean? That's not discourse. People are saying that because they're not following along. You know what I mean? That you're not telling us what's happening.
In a way, Michael Patrick King has served his Jedi Force Sith purpose, which is to kill hate watching, because you can't even hate watch this because it is so boring. It's not engaging. You could hate watch Catwoman if you wanted to. Yes. I mean, if you did, I would really ask you to check your sexism at the door, because if you're hate watching that movie, I hate to tell you, you secretly like it. And it's obvious. And I need you to just accept that, because it is a thrill ride from start to finish. I don't know why we don't have an Egyptian origin story Catwoman ride at Universal. Somebody freaking get on it. I will start. I want the sequel. I want fucking everything to do with this movie. I am obsessed. But my point is, you know, like, at least you could engage on a hate watch, because that movie made bold choices that maybe didn't age well. Maybe they did age well. Questionable. The cat breathing the green gas into her mouth to wake her up. I'd really ask somebody to take another look at that scene. But guess what? I'm crying on the airplane in laughter, because
exactly. You're having a good time.
My time.
You're having a good time.
Is not even worth my time. He has killed hate watching, because I can't even do that, because it is boring and nonsensical.
Yes. Thank you. Okay.
I'm sweating.
Fan yourself for a little bit. Calm down. Maybe like hit the fan. Yeah, get some water. I can see you're like turning red.
I'm just like, God, I've been playing Catwoman 2004 in my head over and over again. And I'm like, the way we should just relaunch the podcast to be just about that movie.
Catwoman adaptions. Oh my God, I would love to do a podcast completely dedicated to Catwoman.
It would be more worth our time. Anyway, this is over. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
All right, aye, Captain.
Get this over with. Rip the Band-Aid off. Miranda is with Joy and her dogs. And do the dogs like her? Do they not like her? I don't care. I don't care. Miranda's like, you let me sleep until 7 a.m.? Oh, great. Joy has this whole bit where she's like, I have a 3-day limit. I'm like, okay, I guess this is banter. Joy has one good line here, which is Miranda's like, I don't think the dogs like me very much. And Joy looks at her deadpan and says, they are still on the fence. Excellent read. Again, Dolly Wells is this actress. Congratulations. You are carrying me through this episode. But we learn that Seema has found an apartment, and Miranda wants Joy to meet Brady. Great. Seema is listening to Diana Ross in the car. She says goodbye to her driver. Again, I think this is all supposed to be funny. Unfortunately, I don't care, because...
What's the joke here? Is the joke like Seema is being overdramatic and saying goodbye to the driver, and the driver doesn't care at all because he's like not reacting? Is it, like, what's the joke?
I think the driver never really reacts. So that's like his thing. His thing is like being emotionless or whatever.
Okay, but we've never.
And I think I needed him to tear up once. You know what I mean? Or him to just be
wipe
like
away a manly tear, like, because he does look like, as a driver, he's got his sunglasses on And even though it's not that signy out, and he's like bald, he's sort of bulky. You know, I do need him to like wipe one manly tear away or something like that. But
or just like have a lip quiver or something. That would have made it funny. Instead, I think they think it's funny because she's like has the whole Diana Ross bit. Whatever. I hate to tell you, start to finish, this bit is not working.
No, it doesn't, and I don't know this person. We're not attached to him in any way that Seema is. So like, I do not care about this scene. I think we're just setting it up to show her like quote unquote fall from financial whatever. But I'm still confused why this is even happening. Why she's having any sort of financial problems to begin with. So. Whatever.
I agree. And also, I just don't think that this real estate company is going to work. So when she's like, I'll come back for you, I'm like, all right, lady, I'll believe it when I see it. Seema shows Miranda the Whisper listing. We know it's a Whisper listing because then Miranda starts whispering. And then Seema's like, if we put in $150K over asking, it'll be ours. And Miranda says, I don't believe in that. That's gross. I don't want to be part of the problem with Manhattan real estate being expensive. And this whole thing just made me angry.
Again,
it's not even like I don't have the 150. It's just, well, I don't believe in that.
Exactly. We're making up a problem. Why do you think we're going to enjoy this show and enjoy these plots and watching them do things if we like make up problems that don't exist, that no one would feasibly have, just for them to be solved at the end from everyone realizing that, oh, this isn't a problem. You know, like, oh, I can't let Seema work with you because I don't mix business with pleasure. And then at the end, actually, no, I do. Seema, why don't you help her? Like, this is a made-up problem. The over-asking thing is not just a Manhattan issue, first of all. Second of all, she clearly wasn't having an issue out of principle. If her issue is like, I don't want to have an advantageous leg up over other people, I don't know why you're hiring a real estate broker in the first place. And also, you're fine with it being a Whisper listing, which is exclusive connected access that you have to this apartment. So like, where is this weird self-righteous coming from? I don't understand. The over asking price and paying it is not like quote unquote part of the problem. This is just how real estate works. I can't like begin to unpack what the fuck Miranda's talking about, but it's just because we need to have a problem, and so she won't buy the apartment now. She'll buy it at the end of the episode. That's it.
Right. It's like they want like the smallest bit of tension, and I really, you know what would have been more of a tension problem is if she loved it and it didn't allow for dogs, and then at the end of the episode she's like, I think I gotta let this one go because I need an apartment with dogs. Like, flip it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever. I also don't like the way that, and there's something in, I think, the writing here in the way that Miranda asks Seema to find another perfect apartment for her. I'm like, as your friend, I would be very frustrated by this. Whatever. So then we cut to Miranda and Joy meeting Brady, and Joy basically is like, you know how you're tentative with my dogs, I'm tentative with kids. This is why I don't date people with kids, blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, but you're my girlfriend, so I guess I have to do it. And Miranda, of course, didn't hear any of that. And she's like, oh, I'm your girlfriend? Okay, we've seen this joke maybe 7 times already. Doesn't matter. Brady loves the dogs. And so everything's fine. The one thing I want to point out about this scene is he comes up to the restaurant and he goes, Mom, you hate eating outside. Psychotic.
Hilarious.
Hate to tell you, if you hate to eat outside, you have to rethink that.
What are we doing here? Brave the unknown or whatever the hell. I mean,
brave.
I do like that Brady did take the note. Again, all the kids got notes to be like, you know, we have to make them not as crazy as before. And Brady, I think, is the most like reasonable child. He doesn't immediately throw a tantrum and be like, Mom, why are you introducing me to your girlfriend? He's just like, oh, these dogs are nice. Hello.
Yeah.
Great.
Again.
Great. Thank God.
Great use of Brady this season so far.
Yeah.
They made him fuck Lily, and then they were like, maybe we cross the line.
Yeah. Maybe.
So then we get to the funeral. Seema reveals that she took the PATH train. Giuseppe, rightfully so, is like, why didn't you take an Uber? And then she's like, well, Miranda told me it would be faster. And I'm like, all this text is right to the recycle bin.
What is
first draft here?
Again, it's like, It feels like we're trying to like weasel in a like, Seema is poor, she does public transit now. But it's like, it's not because she couldn't. It's because Miranda told her it was faster. And then she like didn't wear heels for walking because she doesn't know how public transit works, I guess. You know, it's like there's question marks over every single line that is said in this conversation. I don't know why this is here.
But then Miranda does decide to do the over asking, because I'm going to skip this part, which is that at the brunch scene earlier, Seema does find a second perfect apartment, but there's no dogs, which Miranda complained about dogs at the first apartment. And then Miranda's like, oh, no dogs, but what about Joy? I need Joy to come over with the dogs. And then at the end of the episode, she's, Seema's like, why'd you choose the over asking apartment? She's like, I need a little bit more joy in my life. I'm like, we already had this joke.
Also, like, not to be this person, but like, you're kind of planning a little far ahead, like as if Joy's going to move in with you with her dogs. Like, she doesn't need to visit you and bring her dogs every time. And even if she did, I don't think they're going to like evict you for having a guest that has a dog with them. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Does that mean she can't come over without bringing her dogs? Like, why is it? I actually don't think you need an apartment that has a dog policy, unless you think Joy is going to move in with you anytime soon.
Right. So I don't know. And I don't care.
Yeah. I felt nothing. I felt absolutely nothing except some mild confusion through this whole plot.
I felt nothing. I feel like this episode should have been like, she gets a new apartment. She's like, oh, should I move in with Joy? Like, they have that little conversation, but also you should meet Brady, and then more time to meeting Brady.
Yeah, more time to meeting Brady. Or alternatively, we do this plot, but through the lens of Seema. And we see her like struggling to get confidence in getting this deal done and finding the perfect apartment. And she's like, has to kind of remind herself that her network and her skills are her thing. That's like not actually the company thing. That's how real estate works, right? It's like you have your client book, you have your connections. And she kind of has to like regain confidence now that she doesn't have a driver, now that she doesn't have these big impressive people, big impressive clients, even though we know Marina's rich. Like, and then it's about her finding the perfect apartment. And then it's like, that's the journey, is like Seema, and Miranda's kind of like the secondary person, but we flipped it.
Because Miranda has to be the central character. I 100% agree. I think that also would have been more engaging, would have made the driver fit in a bit more as opposed to this like random one-off scene. Mm-hmm. And this invented problem.
Right.
Well, that's Miranda and Seema. Now we got Charlotte and LTW. Jesus Christ, hit the wheel. Okay.
All right. I got to take a long sip of my water. Hang on, okay.
So we open with Charlotte walking past Memorial Sloan Kettering, and who does she bump into? Our favorite, Bitsy Von Muffling.
Can't believe she's back.
Visiting someone with the big C.
Okay. Can you confirm this? Someone pointed out that she is now in more episodes of And Just Like That than Sex and the City. Is that true?
I think so. I think she's only in 2 episodes of Sex and the City.
Wow.
The episode in season 5 where she marries her husband. And then this episode you saw, which is when she's like super pregnant.
Wow. Is she a real fan favorite, would you say?
I don't know. I don't want to speak for the fan base. I just think she's like the most kooky because she's always this is the Bitsy Von Muffling trap here, which is like she's always like low key, sort of annoying to them. You know what I mean? Like even in Charlotte's experience that you saw with the pregnancy, it's like Charlotte can't get pregnant, but this bitch can. And when we go to see the wedding, it's like, oh, we can't get married, but this bitch can. You know what I mean? Like that's like always the attitude with Bitsy. So maybe they just think like, and this actress is around. Cause like there are definitely other actresses I wish they would bring back more, but God knows their scheduling. So
yeah,
every major milestone in life, like Bitsy has somehow experienced before these women. So they just like keep bringing her back. Like her husband died first and she's experienced cancer first, ? You know, she like whatever. So she's always sort of like looming. I just think my bet is that actress is their friend and they're having fun.
And they're just having a good time. Okay.
Yeah.
That also makes sense. This is good insight into like the question of what am I supposed to feel, right? Like when she shows up on screen.
I think you're supposed to be like, oh, that kooky, crazy lady. Except then they like set her up to be freaking like the socialite of New York here, where she's like, oh, Charlotte has to make up an excuse for why she's at the cancer center because she doesn't want to tell her about Harry. And so she's like, I'm volunteering, but they don't need that many volunteers. Like, you can't volunteer. And then she's like, I'll see you at the Tiffany tea time or whatever. And Bitsy's like, I wasn't invited. And then she's like, I'm going to send them my purchase orders for the last year because I deserve to be there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and whatever. And I'm like, I didn't know Bitsy had this whole, like, I don't know why I'm so invested. And this is where I started noticing the awkward editing. Both Bitsy scenes, like, drag on a little too much. You know what I mean? Like, and they all end with, like, the actress going like, ho, hum, and it's like just awkward textually.
Yeah, I think you're right. None of them like really rang true to me. I also just like feel like it's not, there's something sort of sad and kind of played out about this like making fun of a socialite that's getting excluded from things. So I was also just like kind of not with the comedic beats of these scenes. You know what I mean? There's just something kind of like not interesting. And then all of a sudden it would kind of be like, we have been on the scene for a while. You know, like something would kind of wake me up from a dream of the scene and being like, yeah, we've been talking about this missed invite in the mail for a while. I'm kind of puzzled what I'm supposed to be feeling about any of this.
And we never learn who she's visiting with cancer, which kind of bugged me. I was like, well, they could sort of connect about like, oh, well, my best friend has cancer. I don't know, something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And she even was like, I'll volunteer with you too. And she was like, nope, don't do it.
Well, before Bitsy can go, she's gone. And then Charlotte and Harry walk out of Sloan Kettering, and they're sort of comparing whether he should do surgery or radiation and whether or not he's going to have long-term problems. And Charlotte's sort of trying to comfort him, saying everything's going to be okay. And he's like, I love you, Pollyanna, saying like, oh, she's going to be an optimist about this whole thing, even though, I mean, literally that's been her opposite approach this entire time. But I think he's just trying to gaslight her into not being a negative Nance about it.
I guess so.
Another science question here, by the way, where he's like, I'll just do the surgery and get it over with. And I'm sitting here being like, I feel like usually when you do surgery, it comes with some radiation after, but maybe not as much radiation.
Someone get a
So you're still going to have to do radiation.
Send me a voice memo. I'm not sure what's happening.
Get me a doctor on the phone. But then later, as I said, all the girls are with Giuseppe and Anthony at Hot Fella's Bread. God, I almost forgot the name. Jesus Christ. We see a woman freak out over Giuseppe's junk. Carrie makes the joke. Instead of Balenciaga, it's bread. I did not laugh.
Those are just names
Charlotte
of two things. Instead of this,
two things that start with B.
More like this. Balenciaga, it's bread. Yeah, that's
like,
where we are. We're in a
bakery match. Charlotte gets a phone call from Harry and like freaks out here. I also forgot to point out in this scene, like, Carrie's like, oh, Brady gets to meet Joy before me. And I wanted to be like, yeah.
Yeah, my God. Brady is family.
Insufferable. Anyway.
And what is Miranda's response? Did we write that down? Because now I'm like, I can't remember. And I'm like, did she apologize? She better not have.
No, she's sort of like, you'll get to see her soon.
Okay, good.
My God.
Keep her away
be
from
like,
this.
never mind after that conversation. So then LTW and Marion are editing. I just want to point out here that they are editing and they are talking about Edmonia Lewis, who's a very famous African-American sculptor. I know because of the sculpture that they have on the screen that they're editing around.
Good
and
job.
I had to study that sculpture very intensely in high school. And so I was like, oh, that is an unsung Shiro. Congrats. Consider me woke enough for the show to actually know who they're talking about and actually be like, that was a good selection. Good job.
An unsung Shiro. God, I never want to hear the phrase Shiro again, but also
never again.
Thank you for knowing that and remembering that. God bless you.
Thank you. Well, Chauncey, the The campaign manager keeps calling, so she puts her phone on silent mode. And then here we get maybe my favorite edit of the whole episode, which is the editor guy goes, God, there's quite a few people in my life I'd like to put on silent mode. You're not one of them. As they fade out the audio, and then it just holds on LTW's face as she like looks in horror at him. And it's like from the editing, it's like, was there more scene here? It's the classic Michael Patrick King thing where it's like he has to say, well, you're not one of them, so we don't think it's about LTW. But the expression she has makes me think it is about LT. Like the whole thing here is just a fucking train slamming into a wall.
I have to like look this up now because I'm like, I do not even remember how this episode ends. The scene ends. What are they even talking about?
It literally ends with, there's quite a few people I'd like to put on silent mode. Don't worry, you're not one of them. And it's on LTW's face, and then it just cuts.
Okay. Is this not when he reveals that he's married, maybe?
That's in the next scene. So in the next scene, he's like, ha ha ha, my wife says I'm clueless. Yeah, my wife.
Then what could this be? So I do know at one point on the scene, this is not related to the end of it, the only thing I have written for this was that Marion made fun of the campaign manager's name being Chauncey, and I thought that was very rude. Considering his entire character up until this point is people being like, Marion, what a weird name for a band.
What woman's name? Yeah, no, I agree.
That's all I
anyway, everyone should go watch it. It is an uncomfortable edit.
Clearly it ended before I could even realize what was happening because I have nothing. I don't even remember how this ends. I blanked out.
So then we cut back to them editing, and she's like, wow, you're in my mind and in my pants. And he's like, oh, my wife thinks I'm clueless. As I said, we learn he's married. Then Chris Jackson shows up to say that her father, who was dead in season 1 and alive in season 2, is dead now once and for all. I like to think this is an inside joke in the writer's room, being like, well, we killed him in season 1 and then we brought him back to life. Maybe we should kill him for real. But who knows? Maybe it's a Marvel death, and like next season he'll be back.
I know. I was like,
talk about it ever again.
I was literally the same thought where I was like, God, the only way back into my heart would be if they killed him off every season. Just a new, and we'd like never acknowledge it. But LTW was asked about this in an interview after the actress, who plays her. I think it was for Salon. I can't remember. Sorry to the journalist who did this, but she was getting interviewed after this episode, and they did ask like, so what about the line about your dad being dead and then him dying again? And she was clearly like, gave a very diplomatic answer, which was like, oh, well, I don't know about those things. We're not in the writer's room. That's, I don't know. You know, it was just sort of like, didn't really have an answer versus like, oh, well, I just sort of imagined it was the other dad on the other side or something. You know, it's like she just kind of kept it very short, which I think is kind of funny. And also just, it's a great interview because it gave me a lot of respect for this actress and how much I think the other actors too, but especially the side characters, the not my core 3, have to just come to work every day and get the script and try to make what they can out of it. And they know that it's a mess and they're like, we just have to do it, right?
I think this episode is such a disservice to Nicole Ari Parker, who plays LTW. I think like they give her some scenes that are actually touching and then they immediately ruin them. And it's like, yeah. And I feel bad.
Yeah.
I feel bad because I think that she has a caliber and is engaging and could be engaging. And unfortunately, they just won't let her.
Anyway, go read that interview, get appreciation for her. I loved the image that she painted of her. She had a very minor role in Boogie Nights. So she had a conversation about how she used to live in like Harlem or something. And she was like, you know, in this tiny bedroom, but like on the phone with Paul Thomas Anderson, like talking about this movie or whatever. And it just gave me such like appreciation for how long a career she's had. And
everything I hear about her is like only good. Like even when Michael Patrick King talks about her certain preparation for her scenes, which like again is laughable. Like why are you preparing anything for anything in this goddamn show? It's like you can tell this woman cares and like is trying to do something interesting.
Yeah. Justice.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. And it's like coming up probably her worst injustice here, which is like she has this very touching scene with Chris Jackson where she's like, not my daddy, and the way she says it is just so painful. And then she calls Charlotte, and again, very touching scene here where she, is like, I wasn't there to say goodbye because I put my phone on silent mode. The way she acts it is so real, where you can tell she's just like so mad at herself about, like missing the death of her father, which I think like is very relatable, something many people go through, like is always tough. And then they like on a dime, they go from the sad music to the comedy music. Like you can literally hear it go like, like it's like so blatant. And then she's like, oh my God, I can't believe like the general manager of my dad's theater company sent me an invite to his own funeral. I don't have to cry now because I'm busy being mad at this woman. And let me just step back and say, I'm not mad at this plot, actually, because we'll get into it, because Jennifer Lewis is an icon who can save anything. If she was on the Titanic, she would have put the boat back together and everybody would have lived. But it's just the introduction of this.
Yes. We
could have had this in a separate scene and like had them actually just like chat it out for a minute, as opposed to being like, oh, we got to make it light. It's like this woman missed the death of her father because of her work, which is her central plot.
Yes.
This whole like show.
And I think it's way more interesting than this fight over the funeral with a character who we've never met. You know what I mean? Like,
and way more interesting than the miscarriage from season 2 that they just dumped in there.
Yeah, this should have been the thing. You called the episode silent mode. You know what I mean? Like crazy that, yeah, you're right. You can hear the hijinks music kick in and it's like, God damn it, we were getting somewhere. And we were getting to...
I was actually tearing up a little bit. I mean, I was on the subway after like being awake for 24 hours because I was flying back, but like I was tearing up a little bit. And then it just slapped in the face.
Yeah.
Slapped in the face. And I feel that Nicole Ari Parker knows she was slapped in the face. And I just want to say, girl, I see you.
We see you. Also, get out while you can.
Also, get out. So then, of course, Charlotte goes to bother Harry, basically being like, I've been triggered because her dad died and he was fine. And now you're going to die because you have cancer. And Harry's like, let me watch the game.
I hate this too. I hate this a lot. We did this already when he was like, just let me watch the game while Charlotte prepared the meal for him. And then this leads in Sex and the City. And then this led to the big blow up fight where she's like, why haven't you set a date yet? And they like have the big fight and break up. That at least was like a scene that had reasonable stakes, and like he was being really rude, but also you can see why he was like, this game is important, like whatever, you know what I mean? Whereas like this is like, it feels really cruel to have what's happening and have Charlotte say this and then have it be a punchline, kind of, for Harry to be like, but honey, the game's on, is like really kind of mean, like 90s, oh, that damn wife humor, you know what I mean? It's like very gross. I don't know. I'm like, I'm not sure if we're supposed to be laughing at Harry or at Charlotte, but neither of them deserved this scene. You know what I mean? They deserved him noticing she was upset and turning off the game and paying attention to her. They didn't. Right. This is a mean scene.
Or being like, you know what? I'm the one who has cancer. Can you let me enjoy the things I want to enjoy?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
No. Instead, we get this again. And my thing is, I would be fine calling back to the show, A, if they didn't do it all the time, and B, if they blatantly forgot things that happened in the show all the time. So when you call back and then you fuck up, I'm like, I don't trust you that you're actually calling back or
not. Exactly. And you're, for all their hemming and hawing about like how they want to show these things about, all of these new plots and stuff. It's like, we're not even good writers, and we are like pitching alternatives to every scene and plot, every single podcast episode that like you could have gone down, you're just ignoring because you're lazy. Like, this could have been a lovely moment for Harry to actually be like, I actually don't want to be comforting you about my cancer in this moment. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
let me have my comforts.
Yeah. There's like,
if I die, I want to watch the Mets.
Exactly. But instead we get this joke of like, honey, can you just relax? The game is on. Look what you made me miss. Bye. Thanks, Pollyanna. Kicks her out.
Get the GTFO.
Drop kicks her like the rest of her family. And it's depressing. It's depressing me.
Gotta love the Mets. Okay.
Let's go Mets.
So then Carrie and Charlotte are going to Tiffany's, and Charlotte just like has a breakdown over Carrie's window. Bitsy shows up And then she's like, see, you are still part of the social. I'll see you at the Townsend boat party. And then Bitsy's like, what Townsend boat party? And again, I'm like fully tuned out, smoking 8 cigarettes. Like, why am I watching this? I'll say Bitsy's outfit, incredible.
I also like Charlotte's summer dresses through this whole episode. Like, she was having sort of like long sleeveless dresses going on that were like blue or like flowery. She looked very sort of like Hamptons, New York. Do you know what I mean?
Other than Carrie's hat in the scene, I wasn't offended by any of the fashion.
Yeah.
So, great. And then LTW has the face-off with Lucille, who is played by Jennifer Lewis. Again, I agree with you. Like, what is this plot? But I don't care because Jennifer Lewis is injecting life into this show in a way I did not know. The way she goes, I like your purse to LTW, and then expects the response of, I like yours too, and doesn't get it, and then goes, it's Michael Kors, and then consistently points out that it is a Michael Kors purse, which like has so many implications, right? Like the Michael Kors purse is the one you see at TJ Maxx. It's like now considered to be lower level, you know, and like she has a Birkin. I think she's got a Kelly Hermes bag, LTW. It's just, I love it. I'm eating it like soup.
There's a lot of lines in this too that felt very like, again, I kind of don't know what you're trying to get me to feel, where she's like, so nice of you, she says to LTW, so nice of you to come across the river to here, and like the place where it's set, and she pulls out the hot sauce from her bag. You know, there's like a lot of like coding that's happening here, but I kind of don't know what we're supposed to be getting from this, and we don't explore it. Like, is this supposed, like, the weird racial undertones of the scene, let me just say, is like there and then not expounded upon, and
or addressed in any
meaningful
way.
And I find that frustrating and weird. Like, I don't know what to like make of this,
especially because then my big criticism is like LTW and the family kind of look way too fancy at this funeral. Talk about theatrical. I'm like, these hats and the thing, it's like, and I saw the behind the scenes of how they stitched the outfit for her daughter, which like is a beautiful outfit. Let me be clear. Like all the outfits are beautiful, but I kept thinking like, now you're flaunting your money. And we just went through a whole scene where it's so clear that like this woman is kind of implying that you're too good for Newark, New Jersey.
Right.
And for your father and his theater. And then you're going to show up in like a Christian Dior suit with a hat. I don't know. There was something about it where I was sort of like, I agree. There were a lot of undertones here that were very fun and interesting. And as usual, in the end, just like that formula, we didn't explore.
Yeah, we didn't explore. And the show can't let go of the fashion porn because it's kind of the only thing it has. And MPK and the writers seem to think that this is the only reason it exists. And the most important thing is the fashion porn. And it cannot let that go, which like kind of contradicts what I was sort of getting in this scene. You know, like you said about the kind of like, you know, this like importance to her dad and this kind of relationship that's a little fraught between her and Newark and sort of being a snob about it. Like, there's so many interesting places this could have gone, but we just had to default to fashion porn again.
Yeah, I agree. I'll just say a homegoing is a genius title for a funeral. I'm taking that. And also my hot take is I think this is a great funeral. Like, we're going to get into it, but like, that is my hot take. For a man who started a theater in Newark to like bring voices together, and like, he clearly is working in like an underprivileged area, and like, that seems to be his jam. Like, hell yeah, bring me the Pippin funeral. That's exactly what I want.
And in contrast completely to Big's funeral.
Yeah, I know. Well, I also love that they get served their food, and then she goes, let's pause this conversation to eat. And then we cut back to them and they've like finished the meal to like talk again. And I'm like, who does that in real life?
Let's pause to eat because we're on TV and we can't show us eating. Okay, now that we've done eating, let's continue our conversation.
So strange. But basically, like, LTW is like, I think it's weird that you're organizing the funeral and not me. And she's like, well, you know, you basically were never around to support your dad. I've been here to support your dad this whole time. And so I thought I wouldn't bother you with it and I would just organize it. And then LTW is like, okay, well, you can organize it, but it can't be theatrical. It has to be respectful and plain, AKA boring. And I love here that for a minute, Lucille gets fiery and is like, you know, this is a lot of opinions coming from someone who wasn't around and wasn't at her father's funeral, like at his deathbed. And then I like that LTW gets a little defensive or whatever, and then she goes, "Keep your earrings on."
Yeah. She's like, she tells the waitress to like wrap it up or something. You know, she's like, "Bring me the check and ready to live," and she goes, "Keep your earrings on." Man, it sucks because I really wish I knew who to side with here or something. Like, I just wish I had some sort of experience to expound upon, where she talks about you were never around, you were never here. I actually don't know if that's true. Like, is that a fair criticism, or is that this woman just being larger than life and like just being nasty about LTW for no reason because she doesn't revolve around the theater, and so she's like, you're too good for me, so I'm going to kind of like be defensive about it? Or is it a real criticism? You know what I mean? Like, silencing your phone for work is like not actually the same thing as I was never around for my dad. So I kind of wanted to know. I was like, is this a real problem that she has? Or is she like obsessed with this because of the silent phone thing? And then when the woman dropped that line that was like, you weren't even here on his deathbed, I was like, that is such a major line to cross from this woman we do not really understand her relationship with. Up until this point, I was very confused. I thought she was like the dad's like stepmom or stepwife or something, you know, because I was like, she's really overstepping here and being incredibly hurtful. And LTW just kind of takes it. So I don't know if she thinks it's a fair criticism. She doesn't say anything. You know what I mean? There's like so much here where I was like, damn, you had a guest star, you had the seeds of something interesting, and then you didn't do anything with it. And so the scene ends and I kind of don't know what to feel, honestly. Like, I was like, I still don't feel anything because I actually don't know who was in the right here. You know what I mean?
I agree. And then Jennifer Lewis ends the scene by being like, sorry, you know, I crossed the line, but like all I have is the theater. And like these last 20 years with your father have been the best 20 years of my life. And I'm like, all of this is interesting. All of this is very interesting. Unfortunately, we got to like skip past it. Yeah. And to your point, yeah, I don't know if she wasn't there. Is it because she was busy? Okay, but I'm sort of siding with Jennifer Lewis because she seems more passionate about this woman's father. Yeah. So very confusing, but
LTW looks pained, but she's not saying anything. So I'm like, I actually want to know what your take is on this.
Yeah, it makes it seem like she wasn't there. And if that's what they're going to, media literacy 101, if that's what they're going to communicate to me, then I'm like, yeah, no, Lucille should plan the homegoing. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. But then we're going to get to the funeral now. And then I'm going to like, we'll get to it. But then I'm also like, I feel like it was played for laughs. But I just learned from this scene that this is actually the funeral that this man deserved. But we're playing it for laughs. So now I don't know who is in the right anymore. Do you know what I mean? Let's get into it.
Yeah. She walks in and she gets the big funeral and that Mr. Big funeral. And that is just like an urn on a white column with some flowers. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, it's beautiful. And then Lucille's like, okay, did I do a good job or whatever? And then she's like, yes. And then she finds out she only has 3 minutes for her eulogy, which her eulogy is terrible. So I think 3 minutes was enough time.
But again, also, I'm just surprised. She just goes 3 minutes and then nothing else. You know, there's no pushback at all. We're just going to let this other woman just walk all over you. LTW, what do you feel about that? Are you angry about that? Like, let's see it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, be something. Like, actually, like, have this woman cut her off and then be like, actually, no, I get to keep talking because he was my dad. And at the end of the day, I might not have been here for this theater, which he loved, but like, I was there for him as a person, you know? Right. Whatever. We also get Chris Jackson's mom being a cunt. I do love the exchange where he's like, she means well. And then she's like, no, she doesn't, but it's comforting. And I'm like, who invited her here? She didn't need to come.
She didn't need to come, no. I mean, there's a lot of people here that I don't know why they're there, but all right.
Bored. I also love when the friend group meets outside and we like hear all the things about Seema and Miranda and whatever. Charlotte tells Carrie once Carrie shows up, she's like, oh, LTW put us up front with the family. And I was like, whoa. Charlotte can maybe go up front with the family. The rest of these losers have to be all the way in the back. Like, do you even know one of the names of the kids? Pop quiz. Anthony.
Quiz.
Do you know the names of one of these 3 kids? You don't get to sit in the front.
Just because you own the bakery that they lunch at sometimes. You do not get to sit in the front.
And the father didn't lunch there. That's for damn sure.
Jesus Christ.
So great. Then the funeral starts, and it's clearly more a celebration of life, which again, as I said, Anthony has the great line, it's a Pippin funeral. I love that. If this man, it kind of reminded me, do you remember, I don't know if you've ever watched the funeral of Jim Henson.
I have not.
But like at the end, you know, they all go up there and they give their eulogies. It's very sort of communal because he wasn't super religious guy, right? And then they have all the Muppets come out and sing the Rainbow song, okay. You know, the Kermit's famous Rainbow song. And everybody's crying, you know, it's like tender and it's heartfelt, but they're like still putting on a show, and it's like for Jim Henson, right? And it like works because it's Jim Henson. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel about this funeral. Like if this man was giving a voice to the people of Newark via this theater, yes, they should be singing Pippin. Yes, these three women in solid colors being like, live, should live. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm fully in support of this. This is a great funeral.
And yet,
fantastic.
Anthony is sitting there snarking about, I didn't sign up for the Pippin wedding or funeral. And they're all kind of like, the editing makes it sound goofy and funny. I'm like, this feels right, though. You're telling me that this was this man's life, so, like, what is the problem? This actually is maybe the most fucking This man didn't really exist. He died, came back for one scene, and then died off screen. And he has more personality and contribution to his community than any single one of you sorry fucks. And I'm sorry that you have to sit through the Pippin wedding and then feel bitter about it because this man, like, lived a life, and all you have is your, like, hot bakery and whatever.
Get them. Get them. Get them. Because it's true. I was watching this being like, this man was off in Newark, New Jersey, living a more interesting life than any of these fuckers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And helping people. Live. Love. Laugh. Okay. I also love that Jennifer Lewis like has a microphone in her purse that she pulls out and turns on, and she's like, okay. Now it's time for his daughter LTW or whatever, Lisa Todd Wexley. And so she goes up there with Chris Jackson, and she basically bails. She spirals out being like, my father. I love that she's like, it's clear my father, you know, that it's the way that you all loved my father. And one guy in the audience goes like, he was always there for us.
Yeah. That's the guy, the narrator that has been following our people around.
That's my
She's
guy making it
around
obvious.
The relationship. He was always there.
Whoa, I've never seen romance like that. Okay. But
Aidan
basically she's a break. But basically she gives the worst speech ever and bails because she's like in her own anxiety spiral about missing his death. And Chris Jackson saves the day. Again, they edit too crisp here. Because he like starts by making people laugh, being like, I don't know how many of these shows I've been dragged to. One of them was like about the afros in space, and like everybody laughs, and then they edit, and I'm like, no, what you should have done is been like, but I know that he was there for you, and I know my wife was there for him, and here's all the ways she was there for him, and we actually funded this theater when times were hard. Something, nope, cut. I'm like, ugh,
nothing.
You had it.
Nothing. And then that's why we're making a donation to this theater of the whatever, and then everyone smiles, whatever. Or just, and it kind of, you're so right. I remember this scene, I was like reading something at the time. Like I was like reading emails or something. And then the next thing I knew, we were not in this scene anymore. And I had to go back because I was like, wow, I missed his whole speech. I can't believe I just blinked and it was gone. And then there was no speech.
Hate it. And then we get another like touching scene that's actually good, but it is so marred in the shit of what has come before it that you can't even really enjoy it. Which is like LTW comes outside and the stepmom or the mother, Chris Jackson, the mother-in-law, who's like always a bitch, says like, you know, if you weren't there for somebody when they pass, it means their spirit didn't want you there. And they didn't want you to see them like that. They wanted you to remember like how they were in the good times, which like, I've never heard someone say that actually. And I thought that was like really, you know, like I didn't get to see my grandfather pass. And like, that always makes me a little sad. And that like, I actually was sitting there being like, huh, yes, maybe he didn't want me to see him. You know what I mean? Like people could tell themselves anything, right? Yeah. But like when I heard that, I was like, no one said that to me. And that would have actually been very comforting to me. And then she's like, you can have my Belgian lace if you don't stink it up. I'm like, God, let me have one thing. Let me have one thing.
What Belgian lace? Oh, she's handing her a handkerchief?
The handkerchief. She's like, it's Belgian lace. You have to dry clean it by hand. I'm like, lady, that's what dry cleaning is. Anyway, it's over. And then Carrie bumps into Charlotte buying adult male Depends in the Walgreens, and Charlotte has a breakdown and finally admits to her that Harry has cancer. And there you go.
No time for that at all. We got to cut to credits. Wait, no time for this at all.
I just want to point out that Carrie's like, why are you all the way down here? And she's like, that's why I'm down here, is to like hide from people seeing me buy the Depends. And I'm like, okay, but you went right into Carrie's neighborhood.
Yeah.
I'm like, if anything, you needed to go into like the Bronx. Like no one would have seen you there.
Just order it online.
Yeah.
But whatever, we needed to have this situation happen, and so we do some contrived things to make it happen, and here we are. Who cares? Who cares, right? We just need to put the show on TV, and we need to get our HBO paycheck, and who cares?
And that's the episode. Oh my God, we made it.
Oh my God, we're free.
Well, we end our podcast as we end all our podcasts, with our high and our low, our rose and our thorn. My God, Emily.
I'm running out of like Krakens. You know what I mean? I'm like,
I know. It's pulling at strings here. What was your diarrhea of this episode?
I think my diarrhea, this is weird because it was such an offhand moment, but that's why I'm going to make my diarrhea, was Aidan ripping his pants, because it was such an easy cut that they didn't do that earns it. It sends it to the top of the list for me.
Yeah, and it's useless. For me, it is funeral related. It is the Chris Jackson edit, because that would have really cleared up a lot of our problems with this plot very easily and very simply, and actually made it nice. Instead, she just broke down at her wedding and we didn't get, or at the funeral, and we didn't get to see it. So hate that. Hate it. What was your release the Kraken?
My release the Kraken, I think would say, I think would be the funeral in the theater. You know what I mean? As for all of our complaints about it and what we want more of or less of, and the fact that it was, again, presented as a joke, I'm going to like defend it and put my flag in the dirt here and say that the funeral in the theater was a good idea.
Yeah. For me, it'll also be Jennifer Lewis related, which is the Michael Kors purse running through line. I have a feeling she came up with that because it is funny. And I think a well-used guest star, finally.
Yes. Yeah. Or well placed. I wanted this to be it, but like I wanted there to be more, and like we talked about, but I think what she did have was great.
She worked well with.
It's great.
Yeah. Well, we're halfway through. We're halfway through. We'll just hold on to that. 6 more episodes. Dear God. Well, all I can say is definitely watch Catwoman 2004. It is worth your time. It's only an hour and 30. So it's a perfect dinner movie. And then once you're done with that, you're going to go to our YouTube page at Sister Pegs. You're going to watch us play as the 4 girls in Baldur's Gate. You don't know what that is because you only watch Sex and the City and don't play video games. Don't worry about it. Just go to the channel, press play, mute it. Give us the view. And we will see you here next Wednesday to keep dragging out this show. Thank you for being with us. Bye.